beyond the light, where time stands still. The ocean keeps a secret that science cannot explain. A shadow is moving in the deep, older than memory, larger than fear. Megalodon never left. It just found a place where it can finally be heard in the silence. Let's begin. Welcome to Science to Sleep. In 1997, something woke up in the deepest part of the Pacific, thousands of miles from any human life. NOAA's underwater microphones captured a sound so massive it was detected by sensors 5,000 kilometers apart. They called it the BLOOP. Now, think about the scale. A blue whale is the loudest animal we know, but its call can only travel a fraction of that distance. For a sound to vibrate across an entire ocean, the source would have to be colossal. We are not talking about a big fish. We are talking about a nightmare the size of a skyscraper. Official science tried to brush it off. They claimed it was an ice quake, the sound of ice cracking in Antarctica. But here is the problem. The sound did not come from the surface. It came from 5,000 meters below, where the pressure is enough to crash a submarine like a soda can. At that depth, the audio profile was clearly biological. It had the rhythmic pulse of a living creature, a creature with massive lungs and a heart the size of a car. Why did NASA and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration suddenly stop their ocean floor mapping after this? Why is the area around Point Nemo, the most isolated place on Earth, now a dead zone for independent research? Maybe they realized that the extinct King of the Abyss never actually left. Close your eyes. Imagine the pitch-black silence of the trench. 5,000 meters down, suddenly shattered by this. Does that sound like ice to you? Or does it sound like something breathing? If the Megalodon is truly gone, then what is hunting down there in the dark? The ice quake stories cover up. This was not a crack in the ice. It was a something from the past. Every textbook tells you the same story. The Megalodon went extinct 3.6 million years ago. Case closed, right? Wrong. In the late 19th century, the HMS Challenger expedition was dredging the deep sea when they pulled up something that should have rewritten history books. It was a massive megalodon tooth, over 12 centimeters long, but it was not a stone fossil. It was white, sharp, and looked remarkably fresh. The scientists back then did not have a bias. They just wanted the truth. They sent the tooth for testing. The laboratory results were a total shock. The manganese dioxide crust on the tooth suggested it was only 11,000 years old. Let that sink in. 11,000 years is a heartbeat in history. While our ancestors were building the first village and starting the farm, this 60-foot killing machine was still patrolling our coastlines. This was not a million-year-old ghost. It was a neighbor. But look at what happened next. Instead of celebrating this discovery, the modern scientific community tried to bury it. They claimed the testing was unreliable and labeled it a laboratory error. Why? Because if the Megalodon survived until 11,000 years ago, their entire timeline of the ocean crumbles. It means the extinction never happened. Think about it. The ocean environment has not changed much in the last 11,000 years. If they were alive then, what is stopping them from being alive now? They want us to believe in a safe, empty ocean, but the fresh white animal of that tooth tells a different story. Is it really a mistake, or is it the smoking gun they are trying to hide? The deeper we dig, the more we realize we've been lied to. The king did not die a million years ago. It was here yesterday, and it might be here today. Everyone thinks the great white shark is the ultimate king of the ocean. It has no predators, right? Wrong. In 23, researchers in Australia tagged a healthy, 3-meter long female great white they called Shark Alpha. They wanted to track her movements. What they found instead was a digital recording of a murder. 4 months later, the tracking tag washed up on a beach. When scientists downloaded the data, they could not believe their eyes. At 4 a.m. on a December morning, the tag recorded a sudden, violent event. Shark Alpha was suddenly dragged 600 meters deep down a dark underwater trench. But here is the part that terrified the experts. The temperature on the tag instantly spikes from 8 degrees to 32 degrees Celsius. There is only one way a temperature jumps like that in the freezing deep ocean. The tag was now inside the stomach of another animal. But what kind of animal? 32 degrees is the temperature of a massive, warm-blooded, digestive system. To swallow a 3-meter great white whole and keep its body temperature that high, the predator would have to be colossal. The official report claimed it was a colossal cannibal great white. But let's look at the math. To swallow a shark that size in one bite, the predator would need to be at least 15 to 20 meters long. That is the exact size of a megalodon. An orca? No. Orcas don't dive that deep, and they don't swallow 3-meter shark whole. They tear them apart. A bigger great white, even the biggest great white ever recorded would not have a stomach large enough or hot enough to process shark alpha like that. Something came out of the darkness of the Australian trench, snatched the ocean's top predator, and dragged it into the abyss like it was nothing more than a snack. If the megalodon is extinct, then what is this alpha predator that turns great whites into prey? We have the GPS coordinates. We have the temperature logs. We have the evidence. The ocean is not empty. It is just occupied. There is one place on Earth where satellites are useless and human technology fails. The Mariana Trench. It's nearly 11 kilometers deep. To put that in perspective, if you dropped Mount Everest into the trench, its peak will still be 2 kilometers underwater. Science tells us that the pressure down there is impossible to survive. It's over 1,000 times the pressure at sea level, like having an elephant stand on your thumb for every square inch of your body. They say nothing that big could exist in such a crushing, freezing environment, but they are looking at it all wrong. What if the pressure is not a barrier? What if it's the Megalodon's armor? In the deepest parts of the abyss, the rules of biology change. We've already discovered supergiant amphipods and strange creatures that defy physics. But the deeper we go, the less we see. Why? Because the Mariana Trench is the perfect ghost kingdom. It's a 2,500 kilometer long scar on the Earth's crust where a prehistoric predator could hide forever. In 2014, a Japanese research vessel lowered a bait cage into deep. What they filmed was not a shark. It was a shadow so massive it made the 10-meter cage look like a toy. It hovered in the darkness, just out of reach of the lights, before vanishing back into the void. The Megalodon doesn't need sunlight. It has evolved to hunt in total darkness, using its other senses to track the vibration of anything that dares to enter its territory. The trench is its bunker. It's a place where is the undisputed king, protected by miles of water that we simply cannot penetrate. We spend billions of dollars trying to map Mars and distant galaxies, but we have no idea what's happening at the bottom of our own ocean. Is it because it's too hard to reach? Or is it because we've seen enough to know that some places should not be disturbed? The Mariana Trench is not just a hole in the ocean floor. It is a door, and something very, very large is guarding it. Let's talk about the blue whale. It is the largest animal to ever exist on this planet, even bigger than the largest dinosaurs. But have you ever asked yourself why? Why did nature decide that right now, in this period of Earth history, a creature needed to grow to over 30 meters long? Mainstream biology tells us it's because of food. They say the oceans are full of krill, and the whales just kept eating. But evolution does not work like that. Evolution is a survival race. In nature, gigantism is often a desperate defense mechanism. Animals grow huge for one primary reason: to become too big to be eaten. Think about it. A great white shark or a pod of orcas can easily take down a small whale, but they can't kill a full-grown blue whale. To a modern predator, a blue whale is like a floating fortress. But why would the whale need to become a fortress if its only enemies are so much smaller than it? The timeline is the most suspicious part. Blue whales only reached this record-breaking size in the last few million years, the exact same time the Megalodon suspectedly disappeared. But what if the Megalodon did not disappear? What if it just moved deeper? If a 60-foot Megalodon is still hunting in the shadows, the only way for a whale to survive is to outgrow the monster's jaws. It's an evolutionary arms race. The whales are getting bigger because the hunter in the dark is still hungry. When you see a blue whale, don't just admire its size. Ask yourself, what was it running from? What kind of nightmare is so terrifying that you have to become a 200-ton giant just to feel safe? The existence of the blue whale is not just a miracle of nature. It is a warning. It is living proof that something much bigger, much faster, and much more dangerous is still patrolling the deep. The king isn't dead. He is just waiting for a bigger meal. We live in an age where you can zoom into your own backyard from space. But have you ever tried to look closely at the middle of the ocean on Google Earth? If you do, you'll find something strange. Massive patches from the Pacific that are blurred, pixelated, or simply painted over. Governments claim it's for security or data gaps, but 2026 has brought us leaks that suggest a much darker reason. Last month, a series of coordinates started circulating on the dark web. When independent researchers managed to bypass the digital filters, they did not find a secret island. They found a shadow, a 30-meter long, shark-shaped silhouette cruising just below the surface, miles away from any known migration path. It was too big for a blue whale and too fast for a submarine. But the satellite images are only half of the story. The real evidence comes from the deep-sea oil platforms. These rigs use the most advanced sonar in the world to map the sea floor. In the early weeks of 2026, a platform near the Mariana Trench reported a Class 5 anomaly. Their sonar picked up an object moving at an impossible 100 knots. To put that in perspective, the fastest nuclear submarines can barely reach 35 knots. A great white, maybe 25 knots in short spurts. This thing was moving 3 times faster than our best technology, and it was over 30 meters long. When the crew tried to record the data, their system was remotely overridden. The official report said it was a software glitch, but a leaked audio recording from the control room tells a different story. You can hear the panic in the operator's voice. It's not a whale. It's too fast. It's coming straight for the drill. Why is Google blurring the ocean? Why are oil companies silencing their workers? Because in 2026, we have the technology to see everything, but we are not being allowed to see the truth. The Megalodon is not just a fossil, it's a modern day ghost that is now being caught on camera. The question is not whether it's there, the question is who is paying to keep those coordinates dark. If you still have doubts, look at the scars. In 2024, a massive humpback whale washed ashore in Australia. It was not just dead, it was mangled. On its side was a jagged, circular bite mark nearly 3 meters wide. Biologists were baffled. An orca? No. They hunt in pods and tear flesh. A great white? The biggest great white moth is barely 1 meter wide. This was a single, clean bite from a creature with a jaw large enough to swallow a car. The marks were fresh, the blood was still bright, and the evidence was undeniable. Something is still hunting in the deep. But here is the most disturbing part of the story. Why did we stop looking for it? In the 1980s, NASA was not just about rockets. They were heavily involved in deep sea exploration. Then, suddenly, they stopped. They shifted all their billions of dollars and their brightest minds away from the ocean and toward the stars. The conspiracy theory is simple but terrifying. They did not go to space because they were curious. They went to space because they were afraid of what they found down there. Think about it. We have mapped 100% of the moon and Mars, but we have not even seen 5% of our own ocean floor. Why? Because the abyss is a kingdom that doesn't belong to us. It belongs to a prehistoric survivor that has outlived every extinction event in Earth history. The Megalodon is not a myth. It's not a movie monster. It is a biological masterpiece that has stayed hidden in the darkness of the Mariana Trench, growing larger and stronger under the pressure of miles of water. The sonar anomalies, the 11,000-year-old peak, the swamped great whites, all the clues lead to one terrifying consolation. The king never left. He just moved to a place where we can't follow. So, next time you're at the beach, looking out the horizon, remember, the water is not just blue, it's deep, it's dark, and it's not empty. We are not the top of the food chain. We are just the ones lucky enough to live on the shore. The Megalodon is still out there, and it's only a matter of time before it decides to come back to the surface. Are you ready? Is the king of the abyss still alive? You decide. If you want to see the secret 2026 sightings in Megalodon Part 2, tell me in the comments. Hit that like button and subscribe, because the deeper we go, The darker it gets, watch the water. That's all from me for now. I'll leave you with the music.